Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call to order this regularly scheduled Intergovernmental Relations Committee meeting. My name is Andrew Johnson. I'm the chair of this meeting. We have a quorum today and are joined by Council members Warsami, Schrader, and our Vice Chair Jenkins. And we have 4 items on our agenda today, 3 of which are discussion. So we'll start off first with the consent item, the redevelopment plan for Upper St. Anthony Falls Lock and Dam. It's a passage of a resolution. I'll go ahead and move that item. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. The motion carries, and we'll move on to our discussion. The first item is a resolution of support for Governor Dayton's state bonding recommendations to invest in regional bus rapid transit projects, specifically around the D-line. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, committee members. My name is Allison Nessie. I'm a Senior Resource Coordinator in Intergovernmental Relations. I'm sure you're used to seeing my colleagues here, but they are busy today at the Capitol due to the season, and we have 4 bills, city bills up today. So I'm here in their place. So this Governor Dayton's budget recommendation includes a $50 million request in bonding for bus guideway, and express bus development program. The funds will advance the development of arterial bus rapid transit projects in the metropolitan area and are expected to provide the resources needed to fully fund the Chicago-Emerson-Fremont arterial bus rapid transit line, commonly known as the D-line. The city has previously expressed its support for transit investments which provide all-day service, serve existing riders, and increase transit speed and reliability along city streets, such as bus rapid transit, and has specifically expressed strong support for the D-line. Today's resolution expresses support for the bonding recommendation, which will make these important projects possible. As part of this item, Public Works has prepared a brief presentation to talk about the D-line to highlight the importance of these investments. If there are no questions at this time, I will invite Kathleen Mayall, Transportation Planning Manager, to share her presentation.
Great. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Kathleen Mayall. I'm a supervisor, transportation planner in the Transportation Planning and Programming Division of Public Works. Happy to share a brief bit of information on the D-line with you all this afternoon. First, the D-line is part of a regional network that is currently being built out around both the Twin Cities and neighboring municipalities. First bus rapid transit line is the A-line, which is already built following Snelling Avenue in St. Paul primarily. The C line is under construction this year and will be the second bus rapid transit line in the region. And then the third is the D line, which we'll go into a little more detail here. The D line will significantly replace the current Route 5 Metro Transit bus line. This line has the highest ridership and the highest productivity in terms of passengers per hour of local bus routes. There's about 15,000 weekly rides on this corridor, with the large concentration of those rides happening between Lowry and Lake Street. And while buses only account for 3 to 4% of the vehicles along this corridor, those buses carry a quarter to a third of the people traveling along these corridors. So that's a pretty significant percentage difference there. A bit about the detail in terms of the neighborhoods that the Route 5 currently serves. There are over 125,000 people within a half a mile of the Route 5 and 65,000 within a quarter mile. There's, as well as a high density of people, there's a high density of jobs along this corridor as well. There's about 200,000 jobs within a half a mile and 125,000 within a quarter mile of this corridor. And here listed on the slide are a number of the major employers. So there's the downtown Minneapolis area, Alina, Wells Fargo, HCMC, Abbott, and Children's Hospitals, the Mall of America, all within a half a mile of the current Route 5. There's a lot of transfer points to other transit lines, including light rail, intersecting with Route 5. And then just over 40% of the population that live within a half mile of this corridor are below the 185th percentile poverty rate measure that the region uses. And over 50% of the population within a half mile of this corridor are people of color. So this corridor serves a very dense and high job density neighborhoods and business areas within the city and extending beyond our city limits. In terms of the existing conditions, a couple of the goals related to the D-line are around speed and delay. So currently, the Route 5 serves Brooklyn Center Transit Station all the way to Mall of America, and the typical speed hovers between 10 and 15 miles per hour. The total trip ranges between 70 to 100 minutes. And the goals here, you can see from this pie chart, this is a typical bus movement or lack thereof along the Route 5. You've got just over 40% of the time in motion, over 20% stopping at red lights, and over a third of the time just boarding the buses. So the goals around the D-line really look to increase those speeds by some improvements, which I'll share with you to make the trip overall 20 to 25% faster. And then just one more slide on existing. There's over 250 bus stops along the corridor right now, and again, about 40% of the time is at those bus stops. Of the 116 that weren't bus shelters, about 80 of them have bus shelters currently, and there are over 100 traffic signals along this corridor that buses utilize and stop at, and that can account for up to 20% of the travel time for the route. And so one thing to note, actually, coordinated with this project but separate, there is some early transit signal priority work going on along the corridor, which allows traffic signals to either stay green longer for the buses to get through the intersection and reduce some of that delay. And again, really a well-used corridor. Here's just a couple images to evoke what the ridership and corridor, the density of the usage of the buses looks like. So the D-line project scope is over 18 miles, the corridor here. It's a long corridor. There will be service every 10 minutes, and this will hopefully get to 20 to 25% speed increases faster than the Route 5. There'll be about 50 stations, and it's projected that by 2030, there'll be 23,500 riders daily on this line. The total project cost is $75 million. And just a few images to end with here showing what to expect along the corridor. So this is what a neighborhood scale station would look like along this corridor. There will be a pylon station which will identify the station. There will shelter with heat and light, ticket machines. There will be clear right-of-way along the sidewalk for boarding and ADA accessibility. Bike racks. There will be real-time signage information with the next trip information, map and schedule information, security features, and improved lighting at these different stations. Here's just showing, again, that transit signal priority. In addition, a lot of these stations will be built at the far side of an intersection, allowing the buses to travel through the intersection before they stop, take advantage of that signal prioritization process, and be able to load and unload customers after the intersection. And then another significant feature of this investment is the off-board fare payment system, similar to the light rail stations that we see on the blue and green line. And then because of that off-board fare payment, there's the ability to enter and exit through all doors of the transit vehicles, and there will be 3 along the D-line typical buses here. So 3 different doors that you can enter from, which will speed up that boarding time significantly. That's what I have this afternoon. Happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from committee members? Not seeing any. Thank you. Excellent.
I think that is all we have on that. So.
All right. Well, we have, thank you for the presentation. We have a motion for passage of a resolution to support this $50 million investment in Governor Dayton's state bonding for the D-line. We got a motion, thank you. And
Yes. Just had some brief comments. I just want to throw my strong support for this, that bus rapid transit is really critical infrastructure investment. And I represent one of the wards that will be benefited by the DLine. It really gives commuters a faster way to get downtown, as well as going the other way to make sure that folks are able to come down to Ward 11 to see some of our small business corridors, as well as the environmental impacts. So I want to thank the governor for making this a priority and urge strong support.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jenkins.
Yeah, I would just offer very similar support, and particularly around the reasons that I think it can help to address some of the inequities that we have in our city by helping. You noted that there are 52% people of color living within a quarter or a half mile of this route, and their access to good paying jobs that people may not otherwise be able to access. And so I really strongly urge all of my colleagues to support this resolution as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments or discussion? Councilmember Warsame.
Yeah, I would also like to add my support to the governor's move and to echo my colleagues' comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll add my own comments on this as well. I just think this is such a remarkable project, especially for the number of riders it serves and frankly for the small investment overall for those number of riders. This is a project that, we spend far more on a light rail line to serve the same number of individuals. And this isn't just Minneapolis, this is connecting up multiple cities and some of the biggest assets within our region. And it's serving people where they're at today and is an important investment in increasing ridership and addressing our equity goals across the city and frankly just helping people get where they need to go a little faster. So thank you all for the support. Yes, Vice Chair Jenkins.
I just had one other question. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Because we talked about the A line, the C line, and so I thought the orange line is considered BRT as well, and I'm just curious as to, I know it's a little ways out, but it probably will be coming online around the same time as the D line, and so I just wanted to make sure I'm clear that it is considered a part of the BRT system as well.
So I'm going to defer to Public Works staff to answer that.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Jenkins, yes, you're correct. The Orange Line is referred to as Bus Rapid Transit, and when I said third, I was referring to the arterial Bus Rapid Transit network, which are the lettered, like A, C, D. And the Orange Line is under construction with the 35W project, 94 or crosstown to 94. And it will come online probably roughly at the same time. They'll be under construction at the same time. And in terms of the long nature of the 35 project, I believe they'll be coming on at about the same time. But that is a highway BRT system that is part of that overall network that I shared at the beginning and a critical component to the overall transit network in the region.
And so it's a color line. So does that make it more comparable to like the green and the blue lines? Is that the intention, or?
It is more comparable, yes, Mr. Chair, committee member. The nomenclature, I believe, around the different colors versus letters. The colors are the highway BRT, so the red line going along Cedar Avenue in the south of the city or south of the metro area is the first colored line, the red line. The orange line is coming online next. There's plans and development for the gold line on the East Metro as well. So those are more of the highway bus rapid transit as opposed to the arterial bus rapid transit network, which are following streets on more of the arterial system, so not non-highway BRT.
Thank you for that clarification. So, we're finally starting to see a more complete transit system in our city and in our region. So, yeah, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Any additional discussion or questions from committee members? Not seeing any. Thank you. So all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
That carries. We have item next, our second discussion item on the 2018 legislative agenda and policy positions. I think from a clerical standpoint, we just put these two items on, but they're still related to the D-line. So unless you have anything else to add around this specific, I know we have an item on here to approve support of adding this Governor Dayton's recommendation into our policy positions. Do you have anything else to add?
No, this action is just consistent with the resolution that was just passed, so it'll amend our policy positions in our agenda.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On number 3, I'd move to add to the agenda under item 3 an update to the 2018 legislative agenda policy positions, the following language at your desk there should be a copy of this language. And under environmental and resource protection policies, that Minneapolis supports robust environmental policies focused on improving air, water, and soil quality, including proactive measures to reduce carbon emissions and opposition to mechanisms designed to maintain existing nuclear power plants or reclassify existing plants as carbon reduction facilities while raising electricity customers' bills outside of the normal rate case. And I'm making this motion for a few reasons. In my role as the Clean Energy Partnership board member, I learned about the problematic legislation being pushed by Xcel Energy that would harm Minneapolis ratepayers. This bill would help Xcel avoid regulatory oversight, and consumer advocates have raised serious questions about it. At the Clean Energy Partnership board meeting last week, city representatives made very clear to Xcel that this bill does not support our sustainability vision. We need to focus on renewables and not on nuclear power. Adding this to the legislative agendas helps us be more explicit about our longstanding policy position. It also enable the intergovernmental relations staff to better advocate in the interests of Minneapolis residents on this issue. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember. For our clerk, we'll consider that both the motion on the $50 million for supporting Governor Dayton's recommendation and this amendment and additional language. Any questions from committee members? Councilmember Sami.
I don't have a question. I'm very supportive of the motion Councilmember Schroeder just brought forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, not seeing any. All in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. And we move on to our final discussion item, federal, state, local, and legislative updates.
Right, Chair Johnson, committee members. As I mentioned at the beginning, my colleagues have been very busy. There's a lot moving right now, so I'm going to give you the best comprehensive update that I can. This morning, the Senate Tax Committee considered a bill to lift the cap on our tax burden on lodging. Senator Dietzich is the chief author, and Jeff Johnson of the Convention Center testified about the use of the tax in regard to the Convention Center, Target Center, and U.S. Bank Stadium. The committee ended up approving an amendment that would not repeal the cap, but would raise our lodging tax cap from 13% to 14.025%. This would allow the city's lodging tax to be restored to the full 3% as authorized under law. The bill was heard for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill. The House companion has not been scheduled yet.
Okay.
The Upper Harbor Terminal TIF bill has been introduced in the House and Senate by Representative Lee and Senator Champion. No hearings have been scheduled yet. The Upper Harbor Bonding Bill is scheduled for a hearing in the House Capital Improvement Committee today at 3 p.m. Also included in that committee at 3 p.m. is the Lock and Dam Bill. The Transportation Network Companies, TNC, bill has been through 3 committees in the House and will be in the 4th, Transportation, today. The bill has not changed in regards to preempting local control. The responsibility to administer the bill at the state level has been switched from the Commerce to Transportation. The bill has passed 1 committee in the Senate. Opposition to the bill includes the League of Metro Cities, City of Minneapolis, City of St. Paul, taxi cab owners, MAC, and the disability community. Traffic fines. The bill is supported by a coalition of public and nonprofit organizations and has been heard in the House Transportation Committee and this morning at the House Public Safety Committee. It could be included in the committee's omnibus bill, and to be more clear, that's the bill regarding license revocation for non-behavioral offenses. In regard to pensions, the bill has been approved by the Commission and the State Government Operations Committee. The bill includes a general fund appropriation, which is included in the governor's supplemental budget. The supplemental budget came out on Friday. Governor Dayton released his proposal. The proposal contains $226 million in proposed investments, $20 million in recommended revenue measures, and leaves $123 million on the bottom line this budgetary cycle. The proposed investments that are important and should be acknowledged by the city or to the city: $47 million for safe schools and education, $37 million for capital investment projects, $13 million for opioid initiatives, $12 million for seniors and vulnerable adults, and $27 million for pension reform. Specific recommendations that were included were $1.4 million, a $1.4 million grant to the Family Partnership to expand their facility, $4 million for the Homework Starts at Home Housing Assistance Program, expanding school-linked mental health grants, equipping all first responders with naloxone kits, increasing rates for personal care assistance and self-directed programs, implementing a licensure system for assisted living facilities, increased penalties on employers who commit wage theft, and expanding the working family tax credits. So, any questions?
Any questions from committee members? Not seeing any. Thank you.
Great. Briefly, I'd like to have my colleague Matt Bauer come up and provide an update on the status of the federal spending bill.
Welcome.
Chair Johnson, members of the committee, the current continuing resolution for the federal budget for 2018 is scheduled to expire this Friday. Congress, it appears that they've reached a deal. The House is expected to either pass it either tonight or tomorrow. We don't have the package in front of us, but we've got some information that I think being optimistic that it's got some good news in there for some of our city priorities, and so we look forward to seeing what that will end up looking like. But it appears that it'll be agreed to this week. There'll probably be a short-term continuing resolution through the weekend to finalize the final details, and then it will be run through the rest of the federal fiscal year. So that's good news.
Certainly. Council Member Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bauer. So that would be, you mentioned there will be a temporary CR, and then, but this would also be a continuing resolution as well, right?
No, this would be an omnibus budget package.
Okay.
Right, correct. The continuing resolution would be maybe for a few days because the deadline is Friday,
Right.
and it just needs to get through the both chambers for passage, and so that would allow them time to do so.
And then the omnibus budget will cover
The rest of the
remainder
federal
of the fiscal year.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
and that's it for the federal.
Great. Thank you. Any additional questions from committee members? Not seeing any. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move that we receive and file this update. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. And with that, we've concluded our business, and this meeting is adjourned.